We've just seen a pretty good example of why sprint car racing isn't on TV. Why do event promoters like streaming and what are the differences? I'm not sure that most people understand how it all works, so in this video, I'm going to explain as much as I can. So we posted this graphic on our socials and it brought out a lot of opinions. I'm talking about the new speedway event that is part of the Adelaide 500. If you don't know, the Adelaide 500 is best known as a big supercars event held on the streets of Adelaide, and in 2024, the event promoters, the South Australian Motorsport Board, have decided to build a temporary speedway within the street circuit. The dirt track will be headlined by 2 nights of sprint car racing. If you want to know more about the event, watch our video from when it was first announced back in May. The link for that is in the comments. Our recent post mentioned that the event will now be broadcasted via the premier Australian speedway streaming platform, Pay-Per-View. This was surprising to a lot of people because it seemed like a sure thing that it would be on Network 7's streaming platform, 7+. So, how did this all come to be? Well, I since got a message from Dean Neal. Dean is the guy behind the sports connections to Channel 7 and is responsible for when you see the Night Thunder show, which primarily broadcasts a handful of events at the Perth Motorplex. I actually chatted to Dean for a really insightful past video where we went in depth on what it takes to put sprint car racing on TV. The link for that video is also in the comments below. You can pause this video to read everything that Dean wrote, but basically he was approached before the track design was even completed and had since planned for a full-blown supercars level broadcast featuring live on both 7+ and KO, along with highlight shows on 7 Mate. From what Dean wrote, I think it would have blown away anything that even his previous speedway broadcasts have been. Channel 7 were even going to cross-promote the broadcast during their other shows like Supercars. Unfortunately, as Dean explained, communication broke down and less than a month out, they were told that they were no longer required. Okay, but still, why did this happen? Well, it seems to have come down to cost. As we can all imagine, it was never going to be cheap to build a worthy makeshift speedway track on a grass field and also accommodate for 8,000 spectators. Those 8,000 people in attendance are crucial because they are one of the major income streams for the promoter. Another major income stream is sponsorship. Apart from that, there are food and merchandise sales. But they can also add in another major one by selling the event broadcast coverage. Except it doesn't quite work like that for our sport. Unlike other major sporting codes that get big bucks for broadcast rights, our sport doesn't have a big enough following, so we have to pay to have our product on air. This is where you need to understand the business models for both a niche streaming platform such as Pay-Per-View and for a large network like 7 to cover the event. Either way, someone needs to pay for something to be broadcast. They both sell advertising space, but in both instances, that doesn't cut it. To have both the level of production quality and exposure on a network like 7, the Night Thunder broadcasts are quite expensive to make happen. Those events that you see from Perth are paid for by series sponsors and having the competitors pay a fee. It's a similar case with the 2024 Australian Sprint Car Championship that was shown live on 7+. For that, both Speedway Australia and Sprint Cars Australia chipped in to make that happen. I'm told that the quote to cover both nights of the Napa Speedway event was around 6 figures. Add in the $125,000 prize pool and pretty quickly this 2-night event is becoming pretty expensive to run. And who knows what it costs to build the venue to start with. When the average ticket price is $60 for the 8,000 fans, it's got to be pretty difficult to make it financially viable. Anyway, that's where Pay-Per-View comes in. Pay-Per-View also sells advertisements and, as you know, also charges a fee to viewers in order to watch live. It's a fantastic alternative for tracks to take advantage of because not only is it a cheaper outlay, but the promoter also gets a cut from the streaming revenue. In case you didn't know, the stream pricing is set by the promoter, which is kind of funny when you think about it because Pay-Per-View is the one that's going to cop the crap of, oh, why is it $35 per night, right? So it's cheaper, allows promoters to make an income, easily repeatable, but costs fans money and is a much more niche platform. Also though, the other one is expensive, but wouldn't we want unprecedented quality and exposure? I'll give you my thoughts in a second, but firstly, and more importantly, how did the numbers stack up between the two? Well, we've actually already got a pretty good comparison right here. January of 2024 saw Pay-Per-View cover the Grand Annual Sprint Car Classic at Warrnambool's Premier Speedway. A week later, at the same track, 7+ broadcasted the Australian Sprint Car Championship. The two top events in Australian sprint car racing at the same venue, less than a week apart, just different streaming services. Pay-Per-View posted this graphic saying that they received a total of 4.6 million minutes viewed for their 3-night classic coverage. The next week, the 2-night 7+ coverage saw a combined 8 million+ minutes viewed. That info was posted after the SCCA's AGM. Seem a bit vague. These numbers can be difficult to interpret because they can fluctuate simply depending on things like how long the broadcast actually lasted. What we really want to see though is unique viewers. How many individual people watched the coverage? But you're most likely to not see this for separate reasons. Pay-per-view may not want to share their number because it probably is less than someone like 7plus. And 7plus isn't inclined to give you a figure because they don't want you to use those numbers against them to then shop around to competitors such as KO or Stan. I've worked on multiple broadcasts for both 7 and Pay-per-view, and I have no reason to take a side at all. In fact, it's probably of no real benefit of me saying any of this other than, just like I always try to do for Sprint Car Hub, is put you, the fans, first. I think what needs to be said is that none of these options are actual live TV. There's a reason why Flow Racing puts stuff on Fox and Dirt Vision puts content on CBS. They hope some of those fans will convert to diehards and purchase a subscription. It does make me wonder how and when our sport will ever prioritize what is currently the best way to grow an audience, TV. At the same time, relationships with 7 or KO are important to eventually get there. Also, let's stop underappreciating Pay-per-view and thinking that it doesn't serve a purpose. It's these niche streaming services that have allowed us diehard fans to stay connected. That's another really important bit to remember. If you're watching this within the first 48 hours of this video being posted, you're a diehard fan. Outside of that is the community that dabbles with interest, and eventually there's people who know nothing about this sport. There's 2 real hurdles here. 1, the paywall, and 2, the exposure. Which one do you think stops people from learning about our sport? I'm sure most of you have paid for pay-per-view events even when you're not even a diehard fan, but it's the exposure of such a big network that drew you in to start with, something that a niche industry platform can't provide. How often do you watch curling? I bet it's every 4 years, right? When is the next time you'll have breakdancing shoved in your face? Probably not until the next Olympics. Imagine if the Olympics was only ever shown on their own niche platform. But then let me ask you, what would you do as the promoter? And before you answer, remember that as this South Australian Motorsport Board, you have almost zero incentive to grow the following of sprint car racing, and you've already spent a bomb. When you have to make your work financially viable, you'll have more of an understanding why Pay-per-view was chosen. With that said, I don't understand why 25 grand was added to the prize purse when it's an invite-only event. They had over 100 expressions of interest and all 40 teams were already locked in. I do also know that one WA team has already pulled out, so maybe it was best to up the purse. Let's not let this fracture our community though. We've all got different experiences, perspectives, and opinions, but one thing that is consistent is that we all love the sport. I see the comments we get, and what needs to be understood is that decisions get made for reasons that often most of us have no idea about. But hopefully you learned something here, and having listened to all of this, I'd love to read your comments below. I hope you all enjoyed this insight. Head to our socials if you want to connect and chat more, but what I'd really love you to do is make sure you've clicked subscribe and also grab your gear over at sprintcarhub.com.